evening, everyone, and welcome to Shamni Ghazal. Let me start the evening by telling you a little bit about ghazals and the history and their ghazal singing, and the history of ghazal singing. Ghazals originated in Iran in the 10th century. It grew from the Persian qasida, which in verse form had come to Iran from Arabia. The ghazal spread into South Asia in the 12th century due to the influence of Sufi mystics. Sufis like Rumi and Hafiz of Persia have written ghazals. The Mughals brought along with them Iranian culture and civilization, and when Persian gave way to Urdu as the language of poetry and culture in India, the ghazal, the fruit of Indo-Iranian culture, found its opportunity to grow and develop. Although the ghazal is said to have begun with Amir Khusro in northern India, Deccan in the south was its real home in the early stages. It was nursed and trained in the courts of Golconda and Bijapur under the patronage of Muslim rulers. Today, ghazals are found in the poetry of many languages of the Indian subcontinent. A ghazal is a collection of two-line poems or couplets called a sher. Every sher is a poem in itself. A sher does not need anything around it to convey the message. The different couplets of the ghazal are not bound by the unity and consistency of thought. Each couplet is a self-sufficient unit, detachable and quotable, generally containing the complete expression of an idea. A traditional ghazal can consist of 5 to 15 couplets, but is typically around 7. The first couplet of the ghazal is called the matla. It sets the mood and tone of the poem and prepares us for its proper appreciation. A refrain called the radif, which is a repeated word or phrase, appears at the end of both lines of the first couplet and at the end of the second line in each succeeding couplet. In this ghazal by Ghalib, which goes like this, कोई उम्मीद बर नहीं आती, कोई सूरत नजर नहीं आती. The radif in this is नहीं आती. A kafia is a rhyming word which comes before the radif in both lines of the first couplet and before the radif in each succeeding couplet. So bar, nazar, bhar, these are all the kafia. Veher is the meter of the sher or the length of the sher. Both the lines in the sher must be of the same veher, and all the shairs in one ghazal must be of the same veher. In the Persian tradition, each couplet was of the same meter and length, and the subject matter included both love and longing and religious belief or mysticism. The last couplet of the ghazal, called the maqta, often includes the pen name of the poet called takallus, and is more personal in its tone and intent. Here the poet may express his own state of mind, or describe his religious faith, or pray for his beloved, or indulge in poetic self-praise. Although the ghazal deals with the whole spectrum of human experience, its central control is love. Ghazal is an Arabic word which literally means talking to women or flirtation. In Urdu, the ghazal was originally a form of written or spoken poetry. However, in the Indian subcontinent, the ghazal is also popular as a musical form. Both in India and Pakistan, there have been great artists who have sung ghazals. A ghazal, when sung in the proper mizaj or mood, is said to inspire even the most hard-hearted person to be moved with it. The ghazal as a song is mostly sung in a soothing and melancholic style. The history of ghazal singing can be traced to the late 1930s. K.L. Sehgal was a very famous artist in Hindi movies of those times. Apart from acting in movies, he also sang a number of ghazals. One of his famous ghazals is Lai Hayat Aaye, Kaza Le Chali Chale, Apni Khushi Na Aaye, Na Apni Khushi Chale. Ustad Barkat Khan was another popular ghazal singer during this period. He sang, Hasti Apni Hubab Ki Si Hai, Ye Numaish Sarab Ki Si Hai. However, it was Begum Akhtar who broke the ghazal from the classical clutches and truly brought it to a more mainstream format. She was probably the first singer who realized that ghazal was more a form of poetry than it was a classic composition. Her renditions reflect the true mood of the poet, and her selection of poetry was par excellence. She is truly the Malika-e-Ghazal, or the Queen of Ghazals. One of her famous renditions is Kuch to duniya ki inayat ne dil tod diya, or Kuch talke halat ne dil tod diya. Begum Akhtar inspired many young female singers of that time to adopt a similar style. Then came Mehdi Hasan, who further simplified ghazal singing and brought it to the masses. Mehdi Hasan was trained in classical music, but his compositions and renditions are purely driven by the mood in the ghazal as portrayed by the poet. Both Begum Akhtar and Mehdi Hasan had a great sense of Urdu poetry. Their ghazal selections were fantastic. The two singers were equally popular in both India and Pakistan in contemporary times. It is difficult to choose one of the finest ghazals of Mehdi Hasan, but one such would be Aaye kuch abr, kuch sharab aaye, uske baad aaye jo azab aaye. We'll also be hearing one of his most well-known ghazals, Ranjish Hi Sahi, in today's program. In the 1960s, ghazals also started to feature in movies produced in India and Pakistan. Many playback singers sang, and notable among them would be Mukesh, Lata Mangeshkar, and Asha Bhosle. Mehdi Hasan too was a very successful playback singer of his time. In 1976, The Unforgettables was released in India. The artists of this album were a young husband-wife duo, a first of its sorts. Jagjit and Chitra Singh gave ghazals that last push and brought in new sounds. They used musical instruments like the santoor, guitar, synthesizer, and violin, which had not been used previously for ghazal renditions. The tunes in which they rendered the ghazals were simple, light, and hummable. The poetry they chose was simple and close to life. They were the saviors of ghazal as a musical form. A very famous duet they sang, किया है प्यार जिसे हमने जिंदगी की तरह, वो आशना भी मिला हमसे अजनबी की तरह. The popularity of Jagjit and Chitra Singh opened up the floodgates for the younger generation in India to take up ghazal singing as a career. Among them were Pankaj Das, Bhupinder and Hariharan, and in Pakistan, Ghulam Ali was creating waves. Let me now introduce our performers for tonight. Apurva Deshpande, born into a musical family and has been a student of music since her childhood. She has been learning Hindustani classical music under the tutelage of her mother, Srimati Meenal Deshpande. Meenal Deshpande is a prominent vocalist of the Jaipur Atroli Gharana, an all-India radio top-rated artist, and has been a disciple of Pandit Vitthal Rao Ghate, Pandit Ratnakar Pai, and Gan Saraswati Kishori Amonkar. Apurva has attained Sangeet Visharad from the Gandharva Mahavidyalaya and is a recipient of the prestigious Center for Cultural Resources and Training Scholarship by the Government of India. She has rendered songs for popular albums such as Bawri Shama. Apurva is currently pursuing a PhD in Computer Science at Brown University. On the tabla, we have Chris Pereji, who is a versatile musician with a passion for singing, tabla, harmonium, keyboards, and guitar. Chris is continuing his talim in Tabla Sangat under the tutelage of Pandit Shubhankar Banerjee of the Farrukhabad Gharana. Chris received master grants in traditional arts from the Rhode Island Council on the Arts and Massachusetts Cultural Council. Chris has accompanied various vocalists, playback singers, and instrumentalists from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh in performances. Playing the harmonium is Sagar Taide. Sagar has been playing the harmonium since childhood and has accompanied singers on Indian television channels and in several concerts in and around Mumbai, India. After moving to Boston, he has performed in big shows such as New England Marathi Mandal's Lak Lak Chanderi, based on the centennial of Marathi cinema. He has also led the music section in entertainment programs by Boston's Kalashri. Let me invite them to stage.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm glad to see all of you here tonight. And want to thank Ashok ji and Hindi Urdu department for organizing this unique concert. Ghazals have been one of my favorite musical format for a long time, and it's a great opportunity for me to present ghazals to you tonight, and I hope you have a great time tonight. नक्श फरियादी है किसकी शौखी तहरीर का कागजी है पैर हम हर पैर करे तस्वीर का नक्श फरियादी
What we just heard is the opening verse of Ghalib's exposition, Diwan-e-Ghalib, the compilation of all the wonderful ghazals by Ghalib. It is customary to invoke the Almighty in the opening verse. Ghalib does this a bit differently in this shair, and he addresses the Almighty in a playful manner, saying, "Whose mischief was it to create this universe?" The second line talks about the sheer helplessness of humankind. He gives the analogy of the universe being clad in a paper dress, bowing before the Lord in awe. This reference to pleading in paper attire is an old Persian tradition in which men would enter the courts of their kings wearing clothing made of paper in order to display their humility. In this sense, Ghalib implies that we stand before God in a similarly humbled way. Ghalib was born Mirza Asadullah Beg and was a preeminent Urdu and Persian poet during the last years of the Mughal Empire. He used his pen names of Ghalib and Asad. He wrote several ghazals during his life, which have been interpreted and sung in many different ways by different people. Ghalib, the last great poet of the Mughal era, is considered to be one of the most popular and influential poets of the Urdu language. Today, Ghalib remains popular not only in India and Pakistan, but also amongst Indian diaspora communities around the world. Many renowned ghazal maestros like Jagjit Singh, Mehdi Hasan, Abida Parveen, Asha Bhosle, Ghulam Ali, Lata Mangeshkar, and Rahat Fateh Ali Khan have sung his ghazals. One of his famous shairs is, "हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमां लेकिन फिर भी कम निकले." Another one is, "बस की दुश्वार है हर काम का आसान होना, आदमी को भी मयस्सर नहीं इंसान होना." The next ghazal is by Muzaffar Warsi. Muzaffar Warsi was a prominent Urdu poet, critic, essayist, a lyricist par excellence, and a scholar of Pakistan. A humble man with humble beginnings who was unafraid of experimenting. He began writing more than 5 decades ago and has written several anthologies of ghazals and nazms, including his autobiography, Gaye Dino Ka Surag, which is considered to be a classic. One of his creations is, "मेरी जिंदगी किसी और की, मेरे नाम का कोई और है, मेरा अक्स है सरे आयना, पसे आयना कोई और है, मेरी धड़कनों में है चाप सी, ये जुदाई भी है मिलाप सी, मुझे क्या पता मेरे दिल बता, मेरे साथ क्या कोई और है, न गए दिनों को खबर मेरी, न शरीके हाल नज़र तेरी, तेरे देश में मेरे भेस में कोई और था कोई और है." The ghazal you are about to listen to is about living in the moment. It's titled "Jhoom Le, Has Bol Le."
झूमने हंस बोलने प्यारी अगर है जिंदगी सांस के बस एक झोंके का सफर है जिंदगी झूमने हंस बोलने प्यारी अगर है जिंदगी झूमने हंस बोलने प्यारी अगर है जिंदगी सांस के बस एक झोंके का सफर है जिंदगी झूमने हंस बोलने बिगड़ते कुछ इसे लगती नहीं बिगड़ते कुछ इसे लगती नहीं फूल की दीवार पर शबनम का घर है जिंदगी फूल की दीवार पर शबनम का घर है जिंदगी सांस के बस एक झोंके का सफर है जिंदगी झूमने हंस बोलने अजनबी हालात से भी हंस के मिलना चाहिए अजनबी हालात से भी हंस के मिलना चाहिए अजनबी हालात से भी हंस के मिलना चाहिए हर कदम पर मुड़ने वाली रहगुजर है जिंदगी सांस के बस एक झोंके का सफर है जिंदगी झूमने हंस बोलने
Badr was born in Ayodhya, India. He was an alumnus of Aligarh Muslim University and was chairman of the Urdu Academy. He has been honored with the Padma Shri Award. As the award-winning collection of ghazals is the jewel in his poetic crown. His works have been translated into English and French. Bashir Badra's poems follow a simplistic ritual of writing which makes them comprehensible and felt by the common man. They are contemporary as well as traditional. कुछ तो मजबूरियां रही होंगी, यूं कोई बेवफा नहीं होता। जी बहुत चाहता है सच बोले, क्या करे हौसला नहीं होता। रात का इंतज़ार कौन करे, आजकल दिन में क्या नहीं होता। This ghazal by him is called लोग कहते हैं अजनबी तुम हो. It captures the feeling of meeting someone with whom you feel an instant connection. That person may be a stranger, but somehow you feel that he gets you.
आरज़ू मेरी आज भी अजनबी मेरी जिंदगी तुम हो। लोग कहते अजनबी हो। मुझको अपना शरीक गम कर लो। मुझको अपना शरीक गम कर लो। मुझको अपना शरीक गम कर लो। यूं अकेले बहुत दुखी अजनबी मेरी जिंदगी तुम हो। लोग कहते अजनबी तुम हो। लोग कहते अजनबी तुम हो।
The next ghazal is a very romantic piece where a young girl describes her lover, who she calls her Salona Sajan. She expresses her burning desire to be with him, talks about the restless nights without him, and is even imagining her future with him. This wonderful ghazal was sung by Asha Bhosle and composed by Ghulam Ali.
रातों को जगाए चुराए चैन, रातों को जगाए पिया के चलन है और मैं हूँ सलोना सा सजन है और मैं सलोना सा सजन है और मैं हूँ। रचेगी जब मेरे हाथों में मेहंदी, रचेगी जब मेरे हाथों में मेहंदी, उसी दिन की लगन है और मैं हूँ सलोना सा सजन है और मैं हूँ सलोना सा सजन है और मैं हूँ जिया में एक अगन है और मैं हूँ सलोना सा सजन है और मैं हूँ सलोना सा सजन है और मैं हूँ।
Saeed Qadri is an Indian poet and a Bollywood lyricist. From Jodhpur, Rajasthan, he moved to Mumbai and worked with director Mahesh Bhatt on several of his movies. Saeed's poetry has proved that Urdu Shairi can be appreciated by older as well as younger listeners. And he tries to induce a freshness into the lyrics of movie songs. He is inspired by Sahil Ludhianvi and says he is giving back to the world what he has received from life. One of his songs says, है क्या तड़प है ये कैसी सज़ा, तू क्यों मुझे आज याद आ गया, बेचैन दिन मेरे बेचैन रात है, क्या मैं करूँ कुछ बता, ये मेरे पाँव ही खुद मेरी बेड़ियाँ, इनसे मुझे तू छुड़ा. The song we are about to hear is from the Bollywood movie Barfi. It tells us how the heart is at the mercy of love. Even if we decide not to think about someone, the heart never listens, does it?
So somehow we always think of ghazals as this ancient form of poetry, but it is very much relevant today. It's very popular even today, and the fact that it is popular in contemporary movie shows that ghazal is timeless and we can enjoy it for ages. फिर ले आया दिल मजबूर, क्या कीजिए रास्ता रहना दूर, क्या कीजिए फिर ले आया दिल मजबूर, क्या कीजिए रास्ता रहना तो क्या कीजिए दिल कह रहा है उसे मुकम्मल कर भी आऊं, वो जो अधूरी सी बात बाकी है, वो जो अधूरी सी बात बाकी है, वो जो अधूरी सी याद बाकी है, वो जो अधूरी सी याद बाकी है। करते हैं हम, करते करते हैं हम आज कबूल, क्या कीजिए हो गई हमसे भूल, क्या कीजिए दिल कह रहा है उसे मयस्सर कर भी आऊं, वो जो दबी सी आज बाकी है, वो जो दबी सी आस बाकी है, वो जो दबी सी आज बाकी है। फिर ले आया दिल मजबूर, क्या कीजिए रास्ता रहना दूर, क्या कीजिए दिल कह रहा है उसे मुकम्मल कर भी आऊं, वो जो अधूरी सी बात बाकी है, वो जो अधूरी सी याद बाकी है, वो जो अधूरी सी याद बाकी है, वो जो अधूरी सी याद बाकी है।
Kumar Barabakwi's real name was Muhammad Haider Khan, but he wrote under the takhallus of Kumar, which means intoxication. Kumar had a melodious voice and soon became popular in mushairas. Famous all over the world, He has also written some very well-known songs for Hindi films like Shah Jahan, Baradri, Saaz और आवाज़. One of his शेर्स, मुझे फिर वही याद आने लगे हैं जिन्हें भुलाने में ज़माने लगे हैं. सुना है हमें वो भुलाने लगे हैं, तो क्या हम उन्हें याद आने लगे हैं? ये कहना है उनसे मोहब्बत है मुझको, ये कहने में उनसे ज़माने लगे हैं. क़यामत यकीनन करीब आ गई है, खुमार अब तो मस्जिद में जाने लगे हैं. Kumar's ghazal, बुझ गया दिल हयात बाकी है, talks about the pain of separation. Parting from a loved one is a pain like no other. It feels as if your soul has been taken away, as though you are living without really being alive. Getting over the love of your life leaves scars, and there are always some memories of them that linger.
So this is a ghazal which I have tried composing myself, and this is one of the ghazals Ashok ji showed me, and I really loved the lyrics, loved the sentiment in here, and this is my small attempt at composing a ghazal.
Bye.
रात बाकी थी, बाकी थी, रात बाकी थी, जब वो बिछड़े थे, रात बाकी थी, जब वो बिछड़े थे, रात बाकी थी, जब वो बिछड़े थे, कट गई उम्र, रात बाकी है, बुझ गया हयात बाकी है, बुझ गया हयात बाकी है, छुप गया चाँद, रात बाकी है, बुझ गया हयात बाकी है, बुझ गया
Ahmad Faraz is considered one of the greatest Urdu poets of the 20th century. His real name was Sayyid Ahmad Shah, and he used Faraz as his pen name. His shairi has been translated into languages like English, Spanish, Russian, and French. कठिन है राह गुज़र, थोड़ी दूर साथ चलो, बहुत बड़ा है सफ़र, थोड़ी दूर साथ चलो, तमाम उम्र कहाँ कोई साथ देता है, मैं जानता हूँ मगर थोड़ी दूर साथ चलो, नशे में चूर हूँ मैं भी, तुम्हें भी होश नहीं, बड़ा मज़ा हो अगर थोड़ी दूर साथ चलो, ये एक शब की मुलाकात भी गनीमत है, किसे है कल की खबर, थोड़ी दूर साथ चलो, अभी तो जाग रहे हैं चिराग राहों के, अभी है दूर शहर, थोड़ी दूर साथ चलो, तवाफ़े मंजिले जाना हमें भी करना है, फराज तुम भी अगर थोड़ी दूर साथ चलो. What we're going to hear next is one of the most celebrated ghazals of all time, Ranjish Hi Sahi. In this, Faraz writes about a hopeless romantic who is entreating his beloved to come and meet him, even if only for one last time. In each shade, he tries desperately to give her a new reason to come to him.
So this is a ghazal by one of my very favorite artists, Mehdi Hassan, and he's one of the reasons I got attracted to ghazals, and this is one of his most amazing ghazals. I really love it, and this is my attempt to present it. कुछ तो मेरे पिंडार मोहब्बत का भरम रख, कुछ तो मेरे पिंडार मोहब्बत का भरम रख, कुछ तो कुछ तो मेरे पिंडार मोहब्बत का भरम रख, कुछ तो मेरे पिंडार मोहब्बत का भरम रख। तू भी तो कभी
career, he wrote more than 2,000 songs for Indian and Pakistani films and the Gramophone Recording Company in Calcutta. He also wrote stories, dialogues, and scripts for many popular films and received numerous awards. कम नहीं मेरी जिंदगी के लिए, चैन मिल जाए दो घड़ी के लिए, दिले जार कौन है तेरा, क्यों तड़पता है यूं किसी के लिए, कितने सामान कर लिए पैदा, इतनी छोटी सी जिंदगी के लिए, ऐसा फयाज गम ने घेरा है, लब तरस ही गए हंसी के लिए. Our last ghazal for tonight will be one of his most famous and another all-time favorite, आज जाने की जिद ना करो.
So interesting thing is the previous ghazal Ranjishi Sahi and Aaj Jaane Ki Zid Na Karo, they are both in the same Rag Yaman, and it's very interesting. Both of them have this kind of complementary sentiment. Ranjishi Sahi talks about how a lover is requesting his lover to come and meet him at least once, and here it is like the lover has arrived and now you don't want him or her to ever go away. So I want to end tonight's beautiful program with this evergreen ghazal, Aaj Jaane Ki Zid Na Karo.
thank you to our performers as well. And I also want to thank everyone from Media Services who helped us. We have samosas outside, so please join us for a quick snack.